Welcome, Patriots, to the Albert Plan YouTube channel. I'm Dan Albert, and in this video I'd like to speak to you about the Electoral College. Our founders had great wisdom in many ways in establishing our republic. They separated power between the federal government and the states, the people. Within the federal government, they established a separation, a balance of powers between three branches of government and within the legislative branch, two houses. The House of Representatives was intended to represent the people, and the Senate was intended to represent the states. Now, there was great damage done to our republic by the 17th Amendment passed in 2013 that established the direct election of senators, which sounded like a great thing, but it wound up creating a country club that was no longer accountable to and working for the states. They became an institutionalized body that is foreign to what our founders intended. But the Senate is representing states and somewhat with two senators for each state. So our founders intended that the House of Representatives represented people based upon population size, and the Senate represented states, two per state. So that was intentionally disproportionate in terms of giving more power to the smaller states by giving them equal power to larger states. So that was intentional. That was a very wise thing for our founders to do. And likewise, when establishing the selection of president by having the popular vote in each state determine how electors for each state were awarded to presidential candidates, they wisely allocated one elector for every representative and one elector for every senator that each state had. So likewise, just like in the Senate, small states are overrepresented. In the case of the Electoral College in selecting our president and now vice president, the balance of power was shifted in favor of small states. So we have a Republican form of government. Article 4, Section 4 of the Constitution states that the federal government shall guarantee to the states a federal form of government, a Republican form of government, pardon me. So that's what a Republican form of government means, is that we're not a direct democracy. We're not a pure democracy where the majority wins on every issue. We have a bit of a filtering or a safety valve in place so that by electing representatives that represent we the people, we place a little bit of a step away from majority rule and away from equal votes, because the Senate is not a matter of equal vote per person, it's an equal vote per state. So that was a very wise thing that our founders did. And now in the 2020 election season, we have Democrats that they've been criticizing the Electoral College for a long time. So they would prefer to have a pure democracy, every vote is equal, and the president, the candidate that wins the popular vote, the majority or the plurality of popular vote in the nation would be the president. That's the way they would like to see it. That's not the way our founders established it. That's not how it works. Those aren't the rules of the game. The World Series is won by the team that wins 4 or more out of 7 games. So a team may win the 7th game and win 4 games. If you go to the 7th game, it's because it's tied 3-3. That 4th game might be won by a score of 3-2, might be won by one run. Well, up to that point, with 6 games, the team that lost the World Series may have had more runs in those 6 prior games. The total of their runs may have exceeded the runs that the team that won the World Series racked up by the time the sixth game had been closed out. So the rules of the game aren't, the team at the end of 7 games that scored the most runs in the entire series wins the World Series. That's not how the rules work. So our Constitution guarantees a Republican form of government. Our founders intentionally weighted the smaller states with more power, marginally so. There's still, a large population state obviously has more power than a small one, but they rigged it a little bit in favor of smaller states. And that was intentional. That's not election rigging or election fraud. That is just good common sense. So that the rights of the individual in the United States trump the federal government. The federal government cannot violate any of our individual rights without violating all of our rights. That's one of the founding principles of our republic. And that's worth fighting for. And the Democrats want to unravel everything with our nation. They want to pack the Supreme Court. They want to have justices that see the Constitution as a living document that changes on a whim. And we can change the Constitution by constitutional amendment. Our founders gave us 2 ways to change the Constitution. And I do advocate for a convention of states to propose amendments, which I'll talk about in a later video. And that is one way that we, the people, can effect change and accomplish what needs to be done in order to restore federalism and move power back to the states from the federal government. We'll never see the Senate and the House propose amendments to limit their power. That is just not going to happen. So our founders were brilliant, and I believe it was somewhat an inspired process. It's not like the Bible, inspiration of the Bible, but I think God had his hand in the founding of our nation and gave our founders incredible wisdom. James Madison wrote the Constitution, or most of it, and he was in his 20s. He was a young man. So he was endued with great wisdom. So we need to embrace the Electoral College and not try to eradicate the Electoral College. Because if you change the rules of the game, then obviously the folks on the right would change the way that they operate. It doesn't mean that just because Democrats might succeed in eliminating the Electoral College doesn't mean that they would, from that time forward, win all elections. That doesn't translate. That isn't necessarily going to follow. So Democrats advocate for things that tear down our country, and they do it to their own peril, to the peril of all of us, and we just need to resist that. And if you're a Democrat, just wake up and think and understand all these issues, and if you're open-minded, please consider these things and consider leaving the Democrat Party. If you're sold out to the Democrat position on everything, then you're part of the problem and we'll resist you. But I think there are more people that identify as Democrats that are reachable than many people think. So that is what we the people can do, is try to create more unity of those that are open to the truth and that are willing to look at things with an open mind and with an eye towards truth and doing the right thing, as opposed to following the party line. And that was my alarm. So, what a distraction. I was about to close this video out, and I will. It's time to close it out. I had my phone silenced, but I had an alarm to remind me of something, and I lost track of time. So you get these videos unfiltered and raw because I don't have the time and the skills to edit all these videos. So thank you for your patience with me, and I hope it's amusing to you when I with any of these bloopers that weave their way into my videos. But consider this, folks, and let's get on the same page and restore our great nation. Thank you for your time, and may God bless America.